to the desert of the real.
Welcome to the Desert of the Real. I am your host, Ryan Hudson, and joined with me is your co-host,
Jason Dietz.
The Desert of the Real is a movie podcast where I forced Jason to watch the big blockbuster movies that he's refused to watch because he didn't think they were worth his time. And we are currently going through the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And yes,
We have reached the end.
yeah, kinda. But Jason did not see any trailers. He did not know any of the big stuff that was going to happen for any of these movies. So I don't know.
It's true.
It's just been a lot of fun.
For some of us.
Yeah. Out of two of us. So
I'd say like 1.2 of us.
Right. We are two high school teachers. We teach English and film classes, philosophy classes, creativity classes, and music appreciation classes. Well, he does. I don't teach that one.
No, I don't teach the film class.
Well, collectively, we teach those.
Together we are.
Between the two of us, we teach all of those. Anyway, we use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, philosophy, film studies, and ethics in our films, and push you, the listener, to think critically about your entertainment. We are at Avengers Endgame.
Or, as I choose to call it, Pathos Central. Welcome to Pathos Central, where it's all emotion all the time.
Okay, what's the most logos-driven movie?
Of the Marvels?
No, Justin, when you think of a logos movie, what are you thinking
A
of?
movie that makes sense.
Like which? Like
all the
what?
time.
Which one?
A lot. Look at my list. I've got like
I just want you to name
movies on my list.
One movie. Oh, and if you want to see that list, join our Patreon. Inception. You could burst holes through Inception. You could
Go for it.
All right.
Or even like Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a logical movie. It's internally consistent.
Okay.
Everything that happens in it is believable within the rule set that the movie creates. It's not that hard to do. I mean, if
okay,
if four
hold on.
drunk stoned Englishmen can make Monty Python and it's internally consistent, I feel like frickin' Disney.
Well,
could
Monty
do
Python
the same.
does break rules, but it's funny when it does it.
What?
Like, oh no, there's a giant monster about to attack us.
That's part of the...
The artist had a heart attack? Oh, we're out of that.
That's part of the mythos of it.
I know.
Anyhow.
Okay, I'm trying to think, what's a good hole for Inception?
There aren't
I'm
any.
sure people have been like, if he just did this, then obviously people would have known that. I don't know.
But that's not a logic. Logos is just about internal consistency.
Okay.
Like Memento, for example, is completely internally consistent.
Okay, that's your Memento card for this time. You
Memento
brought it up
is
twice
freaking awesome.
in Captain Marvel.
That's because it's one of my 10 favorite movies of all time.
Memento is good.
Children of Men is internally consistent.
Okay. But I think these are
District
too.
9.
I think this movie is, you're not wrong, pathos all over the place.
Oh, heavens.
It's very emotional driven.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
I'm actually, in this case, not saying that's a bad thing either. There were a couple of moments where I was like, "Ugh," but for the most part, this was an emotionally satisfying movie.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciated it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I was satisfied. Like we established a few episodes ago, I am not an emotional, iceberg.
Right.
I have emotions.
Oh, wait, we did establish that?
Yes.
I missed that.
And so, I felt a number of these things. Like I felt, so this is the moment.
Yeah.
Where I finally don't mind Iron Man anymore.
Oh.
So all he needed was a kid.
Okay.
Apparently.
Yeah. So I remember way back, Actually, what episode was Brooklyn on?
Way back.
Was that what episode? Was that Civil War? Anyway, I remember talking in the Civil War episode. We are seeing an arc you have yet to see, where Tony starts here in his trilogy and then his Avengers movies, but ends in Endgame, and how it is like you've seen him grow in 10 years, and you were mad. I mean, and that's fair. We didn't see Endgame until it came out, so it was a fair criticism. But now looking at the whole scope, stepping back, we're like, yeah.
I still don't think it's an arc.
Well, I do.
I mean, there's a definite difference between Tony Stark Endgame and... So for me, the arc probably started in Infinity War.
Okay.
So he was basically the same character, and then in Infinity War, we start seeing he's not the same cocky piece of crap as he always was.
Yeah.
We did have the little PTSD blip.
In the third movie.
Where did that go? I don't know.
Right.
It was convenient for Iron Man 3, and then it disappeared.
I know. I guess the idea is he sees space in Avengers. He's dealing with it, the kind of like you said, the PTSD thing. Better or worse in Iron Man 3.
Right.
Gets the idea, I need to protect this planet. That's why he creates Ultron.
Right.
And then he's like, well, I can't do that again. I'll do it legally through the Sokovia Accords in Civil War. I'm just trying to protect us.
Right.
I'm trying to do what's right. I'm trying to be a better person. And that's like Civil War. And then we get into Infinity War where he's like, well, I kind of stumbled into this one. Facing Thanos by himself.
So you're focusing on the motivation as the arc. Like what motivates him.
Right, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, that
why
then
does
makes
he
sense.
do what
I'm
he does?
focused more on the person.
I mean, I think, he is a different person in Endgame.
Yeah,
and
for
I think
sure.
everything I was talking about helped get him to that point.
Sure, that makes sense. But when I was talking about he has no arc, I was talking in terms of how he thinks about himself, how he treats other people.
Right.
You're talking about what's driving him. So what's driving him, I can see the arc.
I see. Because then in Captain America, almost the reverse arc, the perfect soldier, and then like willing to bend the rules.
Right.
Like he realizes his government and his organization's corrupt with Hydra and stuff, yada, yada, yada. And then he does something for himself for the first time.
Yeah.
And, not that it's selfish. He gets married to the love of his life.
Right.
And that's a great ending for him.
Yeah, I loved Cap's end. That was fantastic.
Usually, Dr. Dietz, you give us a summary.
So real quick.
Go for it.
Thanos gets killed by Thor. They find him, chops his head off. We jump 5 years later. Everyone is very depressed. There's, no saving anything. There's nothing. And then Ant-Man pops out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he says, I think we can do this. And Tony gets done with dinner and he solves time travel. Okay, maybe not. Maybe it won't be quick. Anyhow, solves time travel. They come up with the idea that they need to go get all the stones, undo everything. So they go, they get all the stones, and they snap everybody back into existence. So basically, nothing has consequences. And except Black Widow dies because she had to be sacrificed. But some magic thing happens in which Nebula now connects to Nebula then and gives Thanos conveniently all of the secret information that he didn't have access to.
Yeah.
He shows up where the gauntlet is after they've snapped everyone back into existence. Big battle with this kind of gag-worthy assembling of all of the frickin' every individual that's ever been a part of anything.
Yeah.
Big battle. Iron Man steals the stones back from Thanos, snaps apparently everyone connected to Thanos out of existence. Iron Man dies. Cap then takes back the stones to where they began, and he then marries the love of his life, and we end with everyone that isn't dead having all of their people back where they needed them to be. The end.
The end. Hey, not bad.
Yeah, this was not a bad movie unless you look at the logos of it.
Okay.
So,
And that's what this podcast is for.
yeah,
Teaching us what other ways can we look at movies,
absolutely.
including asinine logos ways. But that's fine. I'm just joking.
Yeah, logos is moronic.
All movies should make perfect sense.
They
Just
just
kidding.
need to
I'm
be
just-
internally consistent. Jeez,
Just joking.
Louise.
Okay.
Pros. The pathos was very well done throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Even though I am not persuaded by it, I felt it and it felt good. It didn't, for the most part, didn't feel, manipulative.
I
It
just
felt,
made a meme in my head about you.
Oh, good. What was it?
You know those like animal commercials where like donate money every
Yes.
all these sad puppies and the
Yes.
one sad song is playing. It's a picture of you watching that and you're just saying, "Oh yeah, prove to me with logos now." Anyway,
So,
keep going.
great pathos. There are a number of really well executed, I guess I'll call them speeches in the movie. So Tony, when he first re-encounters Captain America, his like no trust speech, I thought was fantastic.
yeah, that's the ultimate moment Civil War led up to.
Yeah.
Because in Tony's eyes, he had to fight Thanos by himself.
Right.
And it was like, I needed you. And that moment, it's powerful. I think.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there's a lot of good acting in this movie.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of moments where these actors shine as actors.
I agree. Yeah, one of my pros was Chris Hemsworth. I think is the best in this. Like he really is. Like we see the most range out of him. Jeremy Renner also just a massive amount of range. Yeah, I agree.
So his opening scene with his family.
Yeah.
That was originally intended to be in Infinity War, and they wisely didn't show us
Yeah.
that because it would have been Thanos snapped, and then we're with Hawkeye all of a sudden. It would have ruined the flow of that moment, but it sets the tone so powerfully.
It was really good.
Because we know he's a family man. In fact, he has a series too, Hawkeye. Where,
Of course he does.
Right, I know. now we can kind of talk a little bit as we go about some of these series that you're not going to watch. His is kind of fun. It's at Christmas time, and
With his kids and his wife.
yeah, his kids are there. He's like a reluctant mentor type of thing.
To his kids?
No, there's a young girl who idolizes him, who wants to be like Hawkeye, and
Kill people.
it's kind of a fun dynamic because he's like the no nonsense, I want to get home type of guy, and she's like, we can do this anyway. But setting him up to be, what is that, his alter ego when he's killing people, is it Ronin, the Ronin, I think.
I don't know.
Donald's yelling at me now, but there's multiple people have been that character, but it was, I think, most iconically Hawkeye. And it's fun how they put him in here with
killing all the bad people.
Right, yeah. That first scene sets the moment. And I remember talking with friends, like, what if it starts like this? And essentially not being exactly right, but like, oh, Hawkeye, it's got to be what was Hawkeye's perspective.
Right.
And just because these movies brought a lot of people together just to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember basically predicting, like, the beginning was just kind of fun for me.
Well done.
Oh, this movie is super clearly, in my mind, structured with 5 acts. Act 1 is like this hopeless act.
Yeah.
And that's what that Hawkeye scenes and right into the emotional and the correct mind space to be hopeless for 30 minutes.
Yeah. The Avengers have no purpose. We've got that meeting with Black Widow in charge, and all of the other people are zooming in on whatever that is. And everyone's just like, there's what do you want us to do? Who cares? Black Widow's like, this is all I've got. I want us to, yeah.
I love how Black Widow finds herself as the leader of the Avengers.
Right.
I think that's kind of a cool, unexpected thing for her to do. I think that's really, it makes sense, and I like that she got that for this movie.
Yeah.
Iron Man just like out of gas, lost in space, just about to die, I think is a nice moment too.
You sure?
What?
That was an eye roll for me.
What?
Like he's like, we've got 5 minutes of oxygen left or whatever, and then boom. And one of my negatives is Captain Marvel is Deus Ex Machina.
Right.
Like, and literally every time she shows up. So
Yeah, you're not
you're like, Iron Man is gonna die out here. How do we fix it? Well, let's bring the God in, and the God will, anyhow.
Except for we see the end credit scene in Captain Marvel, and where's Fury? You know, I guess it's my headcanon, but it's like there's someone in space you need to go save right now. That's how I explain. Like, you got to go save Tony right now. Please do that for us.
Yeah.
Go save Tony.
That makes sense. But that moment was, I think, one of the very few moments in this where I was like rolling my eyes. That's dumb.
Right.
But it was in the opening, and so I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible. But it wasn't. It was not horrible.
I think Donald was wrong last week. I don't think Brie Larson and the directors got into fights. And so, like, that's why they took her out. No, I think they just didn't know how to put Superman into this movie.
Right.
So they had to have her doing something else. I think Donald's wrong about that.
Oh, I have no idea.
But anyway, that moment, for one thing, Tony Stark calls Nebula a blue meanie, which is a fun Beatles reference. But it's just them just playing like paper football.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to do.
Right.
They're about to die. And I love his little message he sends to Pepper. It's like, every night, I'm going to drift off. It'll be like every other night thinking of you. And I think that's beautiful, Dr. Dietz. You don't think so?
I think it's cliche, but that's okay.
Well, all right. And then I love that moment you were just mentioning, skinny Tony. He's digitally altered to be skinny and look like sick. He gets mad at Captain America.
Yeah.
I needed you in the past tense.
Yes.
I remember telling you what we needed was a suit of armor around the world. Guess what, Cap? We lost, and you weren't there. And like, that's like what Civil War had been building up to. Yeah,
that was great. That was a great moment. Actually, one of my favorite quotes is in that chunk right there.
Yeah.
Iron Man's talking. He's like, I got my second chance right here, Cap. I can't roll the dice on this one.
Right.
That was beautiful to me. I'm a father, and I would feel exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So that quote was the moment where I was like, okay, I can like Iron Man. So it was a good moment.
Man, I love him as a dad, too.
Yes.
First of all, Robert Downey Jr., the actor, is great with kids. Because even in Iron Man 3, him and the boy, even if you don't like that movie, it's hard to deny, like, they have some good dynamic together.
For sure.
And him as a father in this movie, I think, is really awesome.
So the whole time I've been saying Robert Downey Jr. can't act. He does in this movie.
Yeah.
So I have to retract some of that. I think for the most part, he's just the same character over and over and over. But in this movie, he's not.
Right.
He's definitely beaten down. He's not. I don't think he makes any sexual comments to anyone in this movie. So that was refreshing. I don't think he flexes on anyone in this movie. I think he's finally, like, it took taking out half of the universe for him to become humble enough to recognize that he can't do everything. He can't solve everything. He's not a god.
Yeah.
He's just a man that's lost a lot.
Right.
And so, Iron Man, I was good with him.
That makes me happy because I don't know. I've just loved him since the beginning, and
not me.
I know.
But now I kind of love him too.
I miss Captain America's beard that he shaves off right away. I just like, oh, he lost a cool look. There's a nice moment right there where Nebula and Rocket hold hands because they're literally the only people they have that they've known. Like, Rocket's never been a fan of Nebula,
right?
But he's lost everyone else,
right?
And I think that little thing, there's like just little things all over this movie that help this movie immensely.
Yeah,
and that moment, I thought was just a nice
I agree.
touch.
Yeah, like I said, this is by far the most emotionally whole and satisfying movie in the whole canon. Yeah.
I wonder if you will agree with this. When Captain Marvel, she's the new person in the group, I guess. And then Thor stands up to her and holds up his hand. The axe comes flying to him. Yeah. And he's like, I like this one. Yeah. Is that just shorthand to get the audience to like her too? Okay, because it's like there's no reason, right? And like we talked about,
this fat drunk Thor likes her. Oh, wait, we should definitely like her.
We're gonna talk about fat Thor. I love when it's like, who here hasn't been to space? Yeah, because like half of them have been, but that's just and then you get a shot of Steve Rogers, a super close up. And you see like space time warp in his eyes.
Right. I don't know what that was about.
It's just an incredible shot, I guess.
Oh, okay.
You know, maybe being a little artful, the directors or something like that. Because it looks cool and there's not a lot of really artful shots in this movie. It reminded me of the Three Colors trilogy Blue, where the movie starts and you see a super close up of an eye and a person in the reflection, and it's just really cool. Anyway.
Cool.
But I love how this movie starts with going to kill Thanos. I guess the goal of that point is like, well, now what's going to happen? Right. They just killed him.
That's like, it.
Immediately, arm cut off. Right. And then almost as immediately, head cut off. Right. And then Thor walking out. And then it cuts to 5 years later. Like, well, what is this movie going to be?
Right. And that was great.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I did too. I loved how they did that. And there wasn't this great moment. It wasn't this, it was just like the opposite of catharsis. Yeah. An emotional release.
Because even Thor was like, what did you do? Like, I went for the head. And it's not like played as like a cool line or something.
Right. It's just like the end, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I also just love Thanos in his little t-shirt. Just gardening. He's a farmer now. Because to his word, he did exactly what he said he'd do. Like, I'm just going to live off the land. I'm not going to create an army. I'm not going to go kill any more planets or whatever. I'm just going to go grow some melons in a field. Yeah. And I think that's kind of, I guess, adds to Thanos. He will do exactly what he says. Yeah, he's not conniving or anything.
Man of his word.
Yeah. That when we're wallowing in the hopelessness act, I guess, I love Steve Rogers is hosting this survival group because he can't not help people. Right. He needs to be doing something to help people.
That's why he's the awesomest.
When he goes to talk to Black Widow, I think it's interesting. He's like, hey, I saw a pod of whales in the Hudson today. So for one thing, always looking on the positive. But you can argue that is literal proof that Thanos was right in this movie. Like, whales are back where they haven't been because the water is cleaner because there's less people. Right. So, like, according to this movie, the Earth did heal itself to some degree. Yeah.
I mean, it's logical that that's what would happen if... Right. I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to get into the environmental.
Was Thanos right type of thing?
No, I'd be happy to get into that, but just the environmental politics, I'm not really interested in.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we're up for a clean Earth. This podcast, we like animals. Black Widow has her hair, which my wife hated, by the way.
Oh.
But I'm like, it just shows there's no hair.
It's longer what?
It's blonde at the bottom because when they went to kill Thanos, it was all blonde. Then 5 years later, it's just half blonde, half red.
It would have grown way more than that in 5 years.
And it's just showing there's no hairstylists, or that's not the important thing anymore.
Okay.
And the passage of time.
Yeah.
Either way, my wife was like, her hair.
Right.
Act 2, yeah. Ant-Man gets the rat that technically saves the entire universe.
Yeah.
Presses a button. And he's like, what's going on? And we get one of 2 cameos from a Community cast. Ken Jeong. But because, the directors directed Community.
Right.
And they've had previous Community cameos in the past movies.
Right.
We get 2 more in this. And he's just the security guard.
Right.
Doesn't say anything. I think Paul Rudd does some incredible acting in this moment.
He does.
Like when he's hugging his daughter.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with the eyes. He's selling that moment though.
Yeah.
And
like I agree. I think that this movie gets the best performance out of all of the movies for most of the characters.
Yeah.
It was very well acted. Very well acted.
And I love when he's ringing the doorbell. He has to remind them who he is. Ant-Man, remember the airport? I was Giant Man. You remember that? Right. It's like they don't know who this guy is.
Right.
He thinks he's got to remind him. That
was good.
There's a lot of moments that make me laugh.
Yeah. There were a couple that made me laugh.
There's a lot of funny moments, I think, which helps the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. And in this movie, it helps. It's the grease for the bitter pills that have to go down. Yeah. Whereas in other movies, I feel like the humor has detracted from the power of the movie. Uh-huh. So whatever happened for this movie, I guess it's the Rousseau brothers. Like they got everything right.
Yeah.
Except for a couple of major issues with the logos, but in terms of the acting, in terms of the writing, the humor, everything came together in this movie.
I think humor is more important in these big. Okay, I have a couple examples you're not gonna like, but movies don't need to be like the funniest movie ever to be the best.
Sure.
But my go-to example is in Lord of the Rings, which you just rolled your eyes for the audience at home. Those aren't comedies,
no,
but there are jokes like sprinkled throughout with the hobbits, with Gimli, and it helps the movie like stay in your brain or settle in your heart, if you would.
Sure.
Another example recently is Dune 2, which once again, not a comedy, and it's dealing with heavy stuff, but there are like enough jokes sprinkled throughout. It just helps with the enjoyment of watching the movie. It's the same thing with this. This is not a comedy.
No.
But these jokes, it just helps, I guess, connect us or helps us enjoy it as we watch or something. Yeah. I think it's important to have those. Not every movie needs to have jokes.
Right.
But
which they Marvel apparently finally figured out.
Yeah. Oh man, wait till oh my gosh, there's
I am not at all looking forward to whatever comes after this, because this is a perfect end.
It is. You are not wrong.
Perfect end.
You're not wrong.
I was very surprised at how completed I felt at the end of this movie.
If you weren't on a podcast where you're being forced to watch big blockbuster movies you don't think are worth your time, I would tell you to stop watching now.
Okay, thank you.
But you are on a podcast where you're forced to watch big blockbusters.
No. I would happily transition to Star Wars right now.
Nope.
Right now.
Because I
wouldn't even complain. I would watch Jar Jar Binks right now.
Because I need your thoughts on Guardians 3, on...
Anyhow, so it's Act 2.
This is Act 2 out of 5.
I was very pleased with Hulk.
Okay, I couldn't wait to see it.
I was super, super happy with Hulk.
Oh man,
It was great. He's the perfect Hulk.
I was like, my wife was watching it. She fell asleep, but because it's a long movie, and I finished watching around midnight, then spent an hour writing my thoughts down and stuff. But she was like, I can't watch these without thinking, what would Dietz think about this now?
Oh, nice.
And I was like, he's either gonna hate Hulk or
Wait, why would I hate him?
because for the past like 3 appearances, you've hated Bruce Banner
Because he's a moron.
and this is kind of Bruce Banner just looking like Hulk. But
He's not a moron.
right. And I was wondering if you wouldn't like it.
No, I loved it because Hulk has always been really what happens when you artificially tear Logos and Pathos apart.
Right.
We've got Bruce Banner as Logos.
Yeah.
Or was Logos. And Hulk is straight up Pathos. So in this character, in this movie, he's the perfect merger of the two.
Yeah.
Like he's a complete being. Like his halves I wasn't choking up. I was not crying. I just had crap in my throat. Yeah, I could not have been happier.
I love how he's got a plate full of a bunch of, I don't know what they were, pancake breakfast burritos. These kids come over, Hulk out!
Yeah, it was so good.
You want a picture with Ant-Man? No, they don't want a picture with me. Come on, get it. They don't want a picture. He's shaking his head right now.
Yeah, it was so good.
I couldn't wait to hear what you thought about
Yeah, it was so good.
Smart Hulk. But Act 2 is essentially gathering the team and formulating the plan.
Right.
Because in the the quantum universe, I was listening to a podcast and they're mentioning how that was not a thing in the comics. The movies kind of invented this quantum realm to kind of be this thing for this movie.
To be the quantum thing for this quantum movie.
Comics, it's always something else. But I think it's it works. It's
one of the massive logical flaws. It's what you probably meant to say.
It's like you go in there, time's different, you come out a different angle. Sure, why not?
No.
Then they go to Iron Man, and that's where you see him with the kid and his daughter, Morgan.
It was so good.
And it's great. I would think maybe this is a flaw is Tony gets over his anger with Captain
pretty quickly.
Off screen. He's like, I guess it happened over 5 years and having a daughter,
Right. Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to say. Like he needed to have a kid a lot sooner in this.
Yeah.
In order for him to humanize. But anyhow, yeah.
And
Tony as a dad is fantastic.
Right. The one reason why he doesn't want to help is I'm not going to lose this.
Right.
If I mess with time, I might lose what I have right now. And I love that that's what prevents him from thinking about it. And then he sees the picture of Spider-Man, his surrogate son.
Right.
And he's like, well, I guess I'll put some things on the computer, see if it can figure it out. And then I love how he's like, oh, crap, I just accidentally invented this.
I don't love that at all. That was so annoying. So there are a number of those kind of things in this movie that are, to me, a logos-driven person, like, absurd.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, he gets done with dinner and invents time travel. Do you know how long in the history of the world people have been seeking that, in the history of comics, in the history of fiction, and he gets done with dinner, and because this movie has to have time travel, and he's like, oh wait, what if? Yeah, no.
I like how it's like almost a nuisance to like, oh man, I just did this.
Yeah. Now I guess I have to go save, trillions of people.
Right. But I do think there's a strong moment when he's talking with Pepper.
Yeah, that was great.
And it's almost like he's debating whether even bringing it up.
Right.
It's like, I could just say nothing and live my life. But, he is a hero.
Yeah, he is.
He has a desire to do good things.
But I love how ultimately it ended up being a decision between a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
They discussed it, the pros, the cons, and ultimately they together made the decision rather than Iron Man's being, Iron Man, I'm God, whatever.
Right.
That was another one of those moments where I was like, oh my goodness, look at Tony being a human being.
Yeah.
He loves his wife enough to actually counsel with her and make a decision. I loved that. Yeah, so the assembling of the team, so one of the moments where I laughed was, I don't know who showed up, but Ant-Man is packing in this crap in his taco. He's getting ready to eat his taco, and then somebody shows up. I don't know.
Nebula lands in the spaceship,
and
blows
all the crap blows out of his taco. It was so good.
And then, Rhodey lands.
Right.
What up, normal size man?
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
I don't know.
Probably because he wasn't big, he wasn't small.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay,
I thought you meant did they have previous beef or something?
Yeah, I didn't know that. And then
Hulk gives him like 2
Oh
tacos.
My gosh, that was so good. That was one of the many moments in this movie. I was like, oh man,
yeah,
that's perfect.
Right.
Because Hulk is awesome.
Yeah,
again.
and I love how they go to get Thor. They didn't need to show Hulk sitting in the back of a truck, but it's just a little thing.
It's a cute little thing.
A moment that, once again, they didn't have to do that, but it's just fun to see.
So
and they bring Rocket and Hulk to go get Thor.
Right. I was just going to ask how many of the Marvel movies the Russo brothers directed.
Just
Guardians 1 and 2 and this?
No. Just Winter Soldier, Civil War, and then Infinity War Endgame.
Wow.
That's it.
Those are 3 of my favorite from this.
But remember, they went on to make Gray Man, so...
Yeah, which is just garbage.
Fat Thor. What was your thought when you saw him for the first time?
That was great.
Because
whoever it is, probably Tony, calls him Lebowski.
Yes.
Yeah, that was exactly who he was. He was Lebowski.
Yep.
Just drinking beer, don't pee on where's my carpet? That guy, that's who he was. I thought it was great.
Because no one knew. I mean, obviously the trailers didn't show it.
No one knew Fat Thor was coming.
He's not fat in the poster. There was nothing leaked online because things happen.
That's cool.
I think someone posted a picture of Captain America in his 2012 costume with Ant-Man, and people were like up behind the scenes, maybe from far away or something. Yeah. And people were like, oh, they're gonna do time travel, whatever. But no one knew Thor was gonna be
fat.
Was going to
Well, it was. Yeah, it was another one of those emotionally complete moments.
Yeah.
Because of all of the people in this movie, or in this series, I would say Thor has lost the most.
I think so. Yeah.
And so, of course, he has to drown it.
And he places all of the blame on his shoulders for not getting to Thanos before he snapped his fingers.
Yep.
And he can't let it go, basically. Yeah. So he's let himself go.
Yeah.
He cannot allow himself to think about it. And that's why, Korg is there. Yeah. Which is so funny. New master's back, Thor.
Yeah.
New master.
I'm going to come tear your arms off of you.
What is so funny is, man, I remember people be like, oh, wow, Fortnite, that's going to date this movie. That's not going to be popular. And then fast forward to 2024.
It's still going.
It's just as, if not more popular right now.
Yeah.
But what Thor says to Hulk, because he said Thanos. Oh, we don't say Thanos here.
Yeah.
That guy. I killed that guy. Anyone else killed that guy? He literally has built through drinking and eating poorly, but a mental shell to allow himself not to
feel or think about that.
Feel or think. And I love that this movie never doesn't let him get back to being skinny Thor or fit Thor.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And
very good.
This isn't for you. This is mostly for our audience because there's another iconic hero that kind of loses himself into a type of depression that a lot of people don't like how they did. meaning Luke Skywalker. And we'll get there when we get there, but because we have lots to say about that movie. But I don't know, because I don't hate that movie, which some people definitely do. But I love this version of it.
Of the losing yourself.
Yeah, the hero of heroes losing hope type of thing.
It was very complete.
Stay subscribed. We'll get to Star Wars eventually.
We could, next episode, be on to Star Wars. We could just, come on. I'll give you M&Ms. We could just be done.
Did you like
Because I feel like I've grown a lot as a human being. This is the perfect moment to be like, okay, there are a lot of redeeming qualities to Marvel movies.
It's tempting.
I have, admitted that I've been wrong about a lot of stuff with Marvel.
Yeah.
I feel like if we don't stop here, all of the previous me and all of the previous prejudices are going to come back, and I'm going to end it where I began.
Yeah.
I don't want the hero's journey here. I want to end right here.
It's tempting because I just know there's good stuff coming.
My son, but he's like, yeah, this is the last good Marvel movie. This is where it needed to end.
It could have ended.
It needed to end.
And everyone would have been satisfied.
Yes. And so, please. Okay. Never mind.
No, we'll suffer through the rest.
You forced me to do this whole
Just remember this moment.
In
the next coming up months, just remember this moment.
Anyhow, for me, probably the best moment of this movie was when they were figuring out where are the stones and how, like, that sequence was a masterpiece.
And also
of acting, of interweaving personalities, of highlighting all of the different personalities. That was fantastic.
I guess you could say, like, the best character arc is them as a team.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's so funny when Thor is explaining the plot to Thor 2. He's like, well, it's not really a stone, so whoever said that is wrong.
Right.
And everyone's like dying. And then he cuts to Ant-Man and he's like smiling, he's like, yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, you did a good job.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was laughing out loud at that. You know what? It's just back to like basic heist movies.
Yeah.
Heist movies are fun because it's fun to see people making a plan. Yeah. It's fun to see people who are good at what they do, doing a thing that they're good at. And then, of course, it's fun when they get messed up and stuff, like in Ocean's 11, whatever. But planning, it's fun to watch. And
I loved it.
Good moment. Hold on. When Ant-Man was aging and shrinking as a baby, as an old man, did you like that? Because I wrote in my notes, I can hear Dietz rolling his eyes from here.
I did not like that. Although I have to admit, I laughed at once he got back to normal, he's like, someone peed my suit. I don't know if it was the baby me or the old me, or it might have been me. But I didn't care for it, but I was so pleasantly surprised at how powerfully the first hour was that I was willing. And at that point,
like Donald said, it's almost like two movies.
Sure, yeah.
And I think, but I want to talk time travel for a second.
Okay, if we start that's gonna be a thing.
Okay, let's do it, because I knew you'd have thoughts about this, because it's different than other time travel movies. It's what, Dietz? You have an audience?
Wrong.
It's wrong.
So this movie for time travel did what Twilight did for vampires. Because time travel has an enormous amount of lore, of rules, you can't just go in. Well, I mean, obviously you can because they did, but you can't just go in and dismiss all of the lore so that you can make your movie. So one of the absolute linchpins of time travel is the grandfather paradox.
Right.
You go back in time and kill your grandfather, what happens to you? This movie basically says, yeah, who cares? Like, we're going to do what we want to do. The end.
Okay.
You cannot do that.
Why not?
Because you destroy the frickin' universe.
No.
Like, even What's-His-Face lists off all of the movies.
Yes.
That is the lore of time travel. You cannot just be like...
That's how time
peace.
travel has been seen in other movies.
There are no time travel books or movies I am aware of that don't recognize the grandfather paradox.
Okay, but that's what this movie realizes. And it's literally telling you this is the rules for this movie.
Right.
Time travel is fiction.
Correct.
It is. I mean, time travelers are laughing at themselves right now. But we've had a lot of movies and stories that use time travel.
Yes.
And
they all obey the paradox.
But this movie is looking at the audience and saying, that's not how this time travel works.
Okay.
And how to expect it.
Then let's fast forward to the very end of this movie.
Sure.
When they're like, well, why don't we just, go unkill and whatever? We have the stones. And Hulk's like, no, because you'll create a paradox.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we suspend all of time travel lore for the bulk of this movie, and then when we need Iron Man and Cap and whoever else to stay dead or out, then we're going to reinstitute the grandfather paradox for the end.
The thing with the time travel in this movie is it doesn't matter what you do in the past, your future will not be affected because
that's bullcrap.
All right, then the time variance thing, they're bringing it back to prevent damage in these other timelines.
Whatever, because it doesn't obey its own rules. It's basic.
No, because time travel doesn't exist.
It's basic. If you think about the idea of time travel, the only way that could possibly happen is if the multiverse theory is correct.
Yeah.
Which the Supreme Sorcerer, Sorcerer Supreme,
yeah,
she points that out.
But if I told you there was a multiverse, does that fix it for you?
No, because if there is a multiverse, who cares about this movie? Because there's only going to be one of the multiverses in which this is true.
Yeah.
So emotionally, this is a complete movie. I would say it's pretty close to perfect in terms of its emotional completeness.
Okay, so there's two. First of all, listener, this is all coming from a guy who doesn't watch Rick and Morty, which definitely pollutes this idea of multiverse and nothing matters. But I'm not saying this to try to fix your problem, because I think this, it's just people arguing about hypothetical time travel. But the next phase is the beginning of what is called the multiverse saga.
Oh, goody.
And it's whatevs.
Okay, so if it's whatevs and it's the multiverse saga, doesn't that tell you something about the bullcrap of this movie in terms of logic?
Well, not in this movie. But, you're right. Multiverse gets complicated, but this movie, I don't think deals with us worrying about that.
No, and therefore this is a logically broken movie. It's not even a flaw. It's completely broken.
If the author of something says, this is how I am creating my universe.
Okay, here, let me give you an example. Another example.
Go for it.
If I'm going to write a historical novel about, I don't know, George Washington. We have this massive canon about George Washington. All of these things have been established, whether they're true or not, whether he actually did the cherry tree thing or not. That's the canon about George Washington.
Yeah.
How many things can I change in that canon before the public will not accept this as a historical account of George Washington? I would suggest that there is a critical mass there somewhere. Like if I put in that he was actually 6'4", I think maybe
Okay.
people would be
All
like,
right.
okay, we'll
But
pass that. If I change him to a woman, people are going to be like, no, that does not fit. The same thing is true here. Because regardless of whether this is fiction or not, and it is fiction, it is a hypothetical, it's a
Right.
theoretical concept, the same thing is true here. You cannot change the grandfather paradox. That is a core element of time travel.
Oh, whatever.
Okay, agree to disagree, because I was pretty satisfied with this movie as a whole. Logically, though,
That's
that
the one
thing,
thing. You can't say the grandfather paradox is science. It's just a
just
popular theory.
it's canon.
It's just what most people think might happen. I mean, if you want a real life science fiction time travel movie, go watch Primer.
I did.
And
It very much reinforces my objection.
it's like, what if time travel was real, but also kind of boring, you know?
Right.
Anyway, we're gonna agree to disagree
Yeah,
because
we'll move on.
there's
We got other
something incredible happened, Dr. Dietz.
What?
A portal is opened up. Someone is coming on our left out of a portal.
Okay.
Oh, we have someone here.
Oh. Hi. Okay.
Oh, this is my twin brother, by the way.
Hey, what up, twin brother?
So, did you come with something prepared, Mark?
Well, to quote Ryan, just to kind of talk about the series as a whole. I mean, since Ryan and I are the exact same age, so we experienced basically all these movies together growing up. There was like a 2-year period where we weren't experiencing these at the same time, and I caught up quicker than Ryan did after that. But just to experience this kind of movie where, like, hey, 2008, Iron Man comes out, they tease the Avengers. 4 years later, we get an Avengers movie. 3 years after that, another Avengers movie. To then, like, have this giant event of a film where, like, all these characters we spent over, like, a decade learning about, having movies, having sequels to movies. Like, I remember I went to IMAX for this movie, and just to experience that on the biggest screen possible was, like, it's a culmination of, like, a decade of filmmaking and basically a decade of at least mine and Ryan's joint lives. Like, we enjoyed these movies together since we were, saw the first one back in 2008, and it's something we've literally talked about with each other, like our thoughts, like what's going to happen the next one, like what do we like about this one, what do we don't like about this one, and so at least Endgame has a very special place in my heart, just because it's like an end piece to like a very large story that's been like these 10 years of our lives. It's something that we've been looking forward to and experiencing together.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I felt that even though I've only been,
It's been like
6
almost
months
a
or
year, yeah.
Yeah, I felt that with this movie also. Yeah.
Because I remember I was talking with our sister Christy. I miss looking forward to these movies. Like we always know, like, oh yeah, there's the next Captain America movie coming out, or the next Thor movie, like the next Avenger movie. I guess the big one, And like and Endgame was just like the big movie. It's like, wow, like can anything be like this again, kind of thing. No. I mean, I think they're gonna try, but I mean, this movie was just special. Just if you like these movies, this was a very special moment to see this.
Yeah, I don't really like them, and it still was it felt very good.
And you watch them in your house,
Yeah.
and like not on the big screen. It can bring 10 years into one movie somehow.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, literally, one of the last parts of the movie is a callback to the very first movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I don't know if you guys haven't talked about that part yet, but apparently was like a last-minute decision to add that callback. And like, there's just so many moments that pay off after like years of investment. And I don't know, this movie is special for that reason. Like, how many other movies do you spend like this many years investing in the characters just to get to this moment?
Yeah.
I mean, the only other movies is like Godzilla has a very long film series, but that changes almost movie to movie. Star Wars has like kind of like that, but they have like specific trilogies, so it doesn't like feel as connected as this giant marvel of a movie. So, I mean, on Letterboxd, I gave this one a heart just because like this is just means something to me, just because of what it's been in my life.
All right, Agree.
I agree too, actually. Other than the time travel crap.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how long you have, Mark, but if you want to weigh in on how this movie handles time travel, then you could be on your
So I
merry
don't
way.
know so just to give a little bit of my background, I have a very science-based background. Like my major in college was biochemistry, and I actually work currently in a medical device laboratory. So I do like deal with science on a daily, almost daily basis. Whether it's mostly review of science, but when in the movie Bruce Banner explains time travel as when you go back to the past, that's your present. It cannot change your past because you're currently in it, and your future is going to be like still your future. I mean, they didn't explain it the best way, but basically it's more like a Back to the Future scenario. Like if you go back to the past, that's your present, and basically what you're trying to do is change the thing. But like their whole thing is like different timelines, which Back to the Future doesn't touch. Like it makes sense, at least to me, but to explain it is not something I have the forte in. I mean,
Dr. Dietz was nodding
I kind of like, I think it's the
smugly.
quantum realm as like, this is the MacGuffin to just move this plot forward.
Yes. I agree with that.
But I'm like the science of like if you go back to the past and they bring it back to the exact moment doesn't change anything. I'm like, okay, for this universe, sure, that makes sense. I can get behind that and just accept it.
That's
and move
what
on.
I was saying.
The only way that can be true is the multiverse thing that we talk. I don't know how much you listen to.
Yes.
That's the
And
only
they
way
talk
that can
about
be true.
multiverse. That the next arc of Marvel is like the multiverse arc. So, that now becomes a main topic in a lot of movies.
Right. But if the multiverse version of this is true, then this whole movie doesn't matter because it's only going to end up affecting one of, infinity of versions of this movie. So, anyhow.
So, yeah, you haven't seen the next bunch of movies. The Loki series heavily delves into this, and Doctor Strange touches it. So, I mean, if you continue on to Loki, I mean, you might get some answers that you might not like, but they are answers.
I know. I like Loki starts immediately after this, technically chronologically.
Dead Loki?
Yes.
So, yeah, the Loki that took the Tesseract in Endgame is the Loki of the Loki TV
He
show,
steps
which is
into
not the Loki.
He steps into
Infinity
the
War.
Loki show.
See? Okay, that
You know what? And
that reinforces what I'm saying.
you're not okay.
Holy crap. That makes this even worse.
You're okay, but you aren't gonna watch the TV shows.
No, but that exists, which makes this movie
And
even worse.
honestly,
in terms of its time travel.
I would agree with you because like we don't need Loki. He had a death in Infinity War.
Right.
But what they do with him, it's actually truly beautiful.
Yes,
like
I've heard great things.
how they, and I hope it's the official end. I mean, there's nothing planned there's nothing announced for any future Loki stuff, but it's just a nice little thing they do, and it kind of justifies this series living, in my opinion. But yeah, Loki from this movie steps into his own TV show after this.
Dead Loki. Oh man, you should not have said that.
I know,
I'm
but
sorry.
like, but
No,
we're
that's just
but we're grappling with.
no.
This movie came out in 2019, and there's been 5 years of continuous movies and stuff being the TV shows.
So,
But literally, you aren't gonna watch the TV
no, but
shows.
How can this company make the Loki movie or series and also try to hang on to their dismissal of the grandfather paradox? You can't do both.
They explain that in Loki. So if you ever watch it, you will get an answer.
Ha!
But it's a crappy answer, apparently.
You just might not like it. I mean, it's a suitable answer. I mean, suitable answers can be crappy.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
Anyhow,
I think it's only six
It's
episodes.
only 6
Anyhow,
episodes.
Moving on.
Mark, are you sticking around, or are you?
I can be for a bit longer.
Do you
I'm
want
at work,
to be a fly on the wall?
technically.
You're at work technically. All right, so here's a fun fact of the reel for you. I mean, it's probably not even. It's probably obvious because the time travel suits are all CGI. Because that was like a. It was. I think they say they didn't know what the suit was going to look like, so they made it. They decided afterwards, or they just thought, oh, let's just do their normal suits. Like, wait, that doesn't make sense. They need something. Whatever the reason is, whenever they're wearing the white Ant-Man suits, those are all added afterwards. So if you want to be snarky about it, you could be like, that's clearly CGI. That doesn't look good, blah, blah, blah. Or you'd be like, oh, I didn't even notice.
I didn't really notice.
Anyway, that was all done after the fact.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
Okay. Anyway, Mark and I
I have a side question that isn't really talked about on your podcast, though.
Go for it.
Do you look at the trailers of the movies before you watch them or after you watch them or anything to see how, like, they were portrayed in, like, marketing?
Me?
Like, yeah.
No. Nope. I am just trying to muscle through this. Like, I don't have the love for this film series that you do or everyone else does, apparently.
Like, I remember, because I just remember Chrissy bringing up how, like, she watched the Age of Ultron trailer on repeat for, like, 2 hours writing a paper.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, I sent Ryan a trailer because, like, the best piece of marketing Marvel's ever done was for this movie, and it was, like, a TV spot for 10 days before the premiere, and it's just like, wow, like, that kind of brought up, like, the entire series. I'm just like, wow, like, just fun fact. That's Marvel's best marketing is for this movie.
I showed that to him because you sent that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I can, like, the hype that must have existed for this movie would have to have been, yeah, just palpable. And so probably, yeah, the entire America besides me was just, like, waiting. Like, is this, I don't know, do they have stats for opening night attendance?
Oh, of course.
This would probably have been one of the most well-attended movies of
easy.
history.
It became the highest grossing film of all time.
Like on opening weekend?
I don't know how fast. Actually, it took
has
a
the
little
records
bit.
to, like, it has the fastest growth. Like, more people paid to see this movie quicker than any movie until, like, I think week 12. Like, it had the quickest to every milestone until, like, the 12th week in theater.
And that could not have not happened.
And,
with
like,
the build up to this movie.
I know they re-released it almost immediately with some added, like, deleted scenes after the credits and stuff. And, like, one of them was you see a scene where Hulk, there's, like, some house on fire or something, and Hulk comes in, like, breaking things and carrying people, and then he talks, and it was going to be a surprise at first, like, there's Hulk, he can talk now, but they just did what they did with this. But that was part of the re-release to help get it to the highest grossing film of all time. And then, like I said, I think in Captain America, then Avatar from 2009 got released in China and became the highest grossing film of all time again. So
yeah, Avatar holds the medal currently. So
rightfully so.
Yeah.
Cool. So are we in Act 3?
Act 3
is the planning.
Is not the planning. It's when the plan starts. When they go into the plan. They travel through time.
At the start of Act 3, the Apollo 13 walk and speech. No.
No, but Rocket says that's a good. No. He's pretty good at those.
Yeah. Well, no. That's all I have to say about that. No.
I don't mind the Apollo 13 walk.
They did not earn that, I don't feel. But anyhow. But in the time travel stuff, there's a lot to love.
Right.
Like, if we ignore the fact that they're pretending like nothing they do is going to affect themselves in the future.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool stuff. Like Cap fighting himself was great.
I love
it was so good.
Because you actually clearly see how much they've aged when you see, like, the scenes or whatever from, like, 2012.
Right.
Like, oh, they did get older, and them reacting to each other like, man, when Iron Man says that outfit did nothing for you,
yeah.
Then Ant-Man, as far as I'm concerned, that's America's butt, you know.
Yeah. So, like,
That's so funny.
I don't want to keep doing the time travel thing, but one more thing in support of this, I feel like the movie itself recognizes that we can't be doing this. Because, like, the scene with Iron Man and Ant-Man and Captain America,
Yeah.
where they're hiding themselves the whole time. If the grandfather paradox was not a thing, why would they be doing that? Like, they're doing their best to make sure that the people there don't see them, don't recognize them, don't know them. So anyhow, and I'll try not to bring up time travel again, but it probably will. But yeah, a lot of really cool stuff.
I think it's kind of fun that there's a bunch of big names that come back for just little parts.
Right.
Like Tilda Swinton.
Right.
Come back to explain multiverse theory.
Yeah.
Whatever. But Robert Redford was retired. In fact, he is retired. This might be the last scene like he ever does.
He's ever in.
Because he's like, I'm done acting. And then he appeared in this movie, which was a surprise to a lot of people, I think. Natalie Portman gets billed as, even though I'm almost 100% sure that was a deleted scene they just put in, but she was on the red carpet. Her name is above the title. Like, she allowed herself to be in. Maybe she filmed something, but for the most part,
she's not in there for longer than
barely
10 seconds.
It's got to be a deleted scene too. But she allowed her namesake to be used and was on, like I said, the red carpet and stuff to promote this movie.
Yeah.
Because, maybe they offered $100,000. Who knows? But it's kind of cool that we're seeing some familiar names. Like when the goons come to carry the scepter and like Captain steps into the elevator, like, oh, whoa, is it going to go down?
Yeah.
But no, it's like he does the Hail Hydra thing.
Yeah, that was so good.
Those guys come back in and...
Yeah.
I just love how they make they make Hulk go
Yes.
on the stairs. So many stairs.
Yeah, I hate stairs. Also, when they very first showed up, and Hulk watches himself smashing crap.
Yeah, he's embarrassed.
And he's embarrassed, and then they're making the plan, and Cap's like, yeah, and maybe you should smash stuff. I absolutely love he goes out there and he's like,
I think it's gratuitous, but okay.
Right. Crash. Crash. That was so great. That was another moment I just cracked up. That was great.
I do have to bring up a strong nitpick I have.
Hit it.
When the Sorcerer Supreme does the soul thing to Hulk.
Right.
Hulk's body is just there and she's talking to Bruce Banner. I wish Hulk and Bruce would have been separate together.
Yeah.
On screen.
That would have been good.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But in that scene, I love the Sorcerer Supreme's humility. Like, she's basically a goddess, kind of.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I will never give this to you. And then, like, they work it through logically. And then she's like, oh, maybe I was wrong. And gives him the stone. That was fantastic.
He convinces her, which is fun.
Yeah.
It
was so good.
It's kind of interesting how everyone's split up. Like, it maybe doesn't make sense for Hawkeye and Black Widow to do the most magical one.
Right.
But then it's Thor and Rocket are a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
And then, like, Nebula and Rhodey, they're just kind of like the ones that are most, like, blunt or have robotic parts, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. But
I don't either.
I like how Iron Man had to defend wearing Axe. It's like, is that Axe body spray? I have a one for emergencies.
Right.
But when Thor goes to talk to his mom, that
was gorgeous.
One of the best parts in this entire movie.
Yeah, I agree. It was gorgeous.
Because the actress is Renee Marie Russo, who is not like a household name, but she is prominent in her sphere. Like, people are like, why are we wasting her? We wasted her in 2 Thor movies. I am glad that she came back to have a pivotal moment in this.
That was it was beautiful.
Because one thing, this movie makes Thor 2 more important. Not that people are Like, oh yeah, it's way better. No one's ever saying that except for me, but I just like it better than Thor 1. But I love how this movie almost recontextualizes a scene in that movie. Why was she so at peace to go to her death? Well, maybe because
she knew Thor was
not that they knew that when they made that movie. But I do want to talk about this. It's the heart of the movie almost.
Yeah,
is this,
I agree.
This conversation with Thor's mom.
Yeah.
Like he gets that catharsis. It's so funny when it's like, you're from the future. I'm totally from the future.
Yeah. I think, everything about that encounter was perfect.
And
he gets the hammer back. That was just so beautiful.
It is.
He gets it back and he's like, I am still worthy. It was so good.
And he's open her. He tells her everything. About how he feels like he let the universe down by not killing Thanos.
Right.
And this is what she says, and it's so beautiful. He says, I was just an idiot with an axe. And he's like, yeah, you were.
Yeah.
It takes him aback. She says, but just like everyone else, everyone fails at who they're supposed to be. The measure of a hero, is how well they succeed at being who they are.
Right.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
That was one of my lines I wrote too.
Like, being fat doesn't make you unworthy. Messing up doesn't make you worthy.
Right.
He is still worthy.
Yep.
He didn't think he was. And he gets his old hammer because it's not broken yet and stuff. That idea, it doesn't matter how much you mess up, you are still worthy.
Yeah.
Beautiful moment.
Yep, I agree. And then she says, and eat a salad. That was another moment. I just lost it because everything up to that moment was so, beautiful and deep. And then she's like, you need to hit the treadmill there, son. That was great.
And like Tony talking with his dad is less powerful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still pretty good. Like, he always had, I guess, dad issues. And again, it wasn't until he has a child, he's a dad, that he kind of sees a different angle of his dad.
Just how difficult it is to be a good parent. Yeah.
And he gets to give him a hug, which was just a nice touch.
Yeah, but not, nowhere near.
And he gets to thank him, too.
Yeah.
Nowhere near, but...
Nowhere near.
Nice, though.
Yeah. It was.
You get the actual final last Stanley cameo we'll ever get. The make
was
love,
gonna
not
be in the
war.
hippie driving by the
and everyone calls out like Tony's hippie goatee, like a weird beard.
Yeah.
And you get to see old Hank Pym, and that's I think once again it just highlights why it was smart to go with a different Ant-Man, because he's basically Tony. He's like, we have a delivery for you. Are you going to bring it up? That's your job. Like, he's just...
Right, yeah.
Anyway, full of himself, but it's fun. Like, it's glowing. They opened it. He runs down the hall.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they get the extra Pym particles. They get the other...
Right, the extra Pym particles, which basically invalidates all of the pressure of that part of the movie.
Right.
Like, we get one trip. Well, actually, no, we
They
don't. We
do.
get as many trips as we want, because he
No
could
one
go
else
back.
does,
Well,
though.
but he could go back to, the time right before they were leaping and
Yeah.
say, oh, hey, here's a whole bunch more. So go wherever you want and do whatever you want. You want to see JFK's assassination, you want to meet Jesus Christ, just whatever. Just in all of your jumping around, make sure that you get this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
So that's where, because I would say that I loved this movie up until right about that point. That's when most of my negatives start popping up.
Right.
So you've just robbed all the power of.
Yes, but...
We get one shot at
everyone else can't do it.
But they could have very easily.
Yeah, well...
So,
all right, well...
Anyhow.
I know. No matter what, time travel will always be...
There'll be an issue.
Complicated.
Problem for this movie.
Yeah.
Good.
Wanted to explain why I think the wrong person died between Clint and Natasha.
Okay.
Black Widow and Hawkeye. For one thing, it's just kind of... It shows how good they are compared to Thanos.
Right.
He's so
It's-
willing to
yeah,
kill someone.
direct
They're like,
opposite.
no, I'm going to sacrifice myself. No, I'm going to sacrifice myself. The direct opposite. But I think Hawkeye doesn't die in this scenario because he has a family. And that's like the movie couldn't let his family go without. But you know what? Tony has a family and he dies. Black Widow, she rose to the occasion to become the leader of the Avengers to do what she could. Hawkeye, he lowered himself to kill people. I mean,
They were crappy people.
They're criminals.
Apparently.
They're probably bad guys that deserve to be killed. But no one else went to kill people. He lowered himself to get to a place where that's who he became. And I felt like that would have kind of redeemed himself. I don't know if you agree with that or if other people agree with that, but
No, I mean, yeah, I could
don't
see
know.
that argument. So I guess I'll bring something up from what we will talk about in Act 4 here, because the battle between Thanos and everybody else really highlights the power disparity between the various characters. So if we look at it that way, they killed the least useful of the two.
Sure, yeah.
Because, Hawkeye, he's still not that useful compared to like Captain Marvel or a Thor or even Iron Man or whatever. But he's definitely more useful than Black Widow.
All right, yeah.
I don't know.
You're not wrong. You're right. You are not, believe it or not, you're not the first person to be like, can't they use the logic from this movie to bring her back?
Right.
Gamora's back.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we in Act 4?
Then they come back. Nebula does that thing, and they Thanos essentially watches Infinity War.
Right.
Which is kind of funny.
So the Nebula connection thing is the other thing that this movie hinges on that I don't feel like makes any logical sense at all.
Right.
And so logically this movie sucks.
Okay.
From a logo standpoint. There's no, like, we just have to accept those two things on faith, neither of which makes sense, both of which this movie cannot occur without. So how did Nebula link with Nebula? No idea.
I guess, it doesn't tell you. I do like, though, that it's a bit of like dramatic action where like it's just something they didn't even consider this.
Right.
And it's like,
because it doesn't make any sense.
So, but dramatic action works when something goes well, but then, something bad happens. And I do like how it's just some unforeseen trial. And it's kind of like the Cloud. They just synced up. And I don't know. It's just two nebulas in one place, and I don't know. Like,
there are two Iron Mans. Why didn't their suits link up and do anyhow?
Yeah.
Logically, this movie is terrible. But it was so perfect in terms of emotion.
Cut this episode right here after the end of
wrapping
part
everything up,
3
that
analysis.
The logic really didn't start bothering me.
As you can tell, I think this movie was a much better film than I was anticipating. There's a lot to love here, but make sure that you keep thinking about the movies that you want to say something?
Am I allowed to be on the show? Sure. But are you going to actually put it on the show? You should put it on the show. I think that you're trash for thinking it's trash because it's awesome.
I didn't think it was trash.
Oh, I thought you hated everything Marvel.
No. I've matured.
Cool beans, dude.
All right, that was my nephew. Keep thinking critically. Keep finding the ways that the media that you consume is trying to get you to think in certain ways. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week.